talk about S'Mya's talent as well and getting those pieces to work around her.
Well, one thing, and I know if anyone's talked to her or seen her interviews or been around her in a short period of time, you realize like the basketball part of her is just one piece, but she is a phenomenal human being. She's a great leader. People draw to her. She's very magnetic, in terms of people want to play with her. She's a great teammate.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Paid all who enter and beware this podcast. That's right, this is the Paid Podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Nick Springer. I'm joined by Kevin Flaherty, and we are brought to you by Emprise Bank, your partner in all things possible, member FDIC. And we just recorded a podcast earlier talking all things KU football transfer portal related. So if you want to hear more about that, you can check that out over on our feed, over on YouTube at Kansas Jocks KCSN if you want to watch it, or of course, wherever you get your audio platforms as well, talking all things KU football transfer portal related. As we approach the holiday season, it's been very busy for Kansas, and we were joined by Michael Swain from fog.net, 24/7 Sports to help break all that down, so you can certainly check that out as well. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit of KU women's basketball. We've been talking a lot of KU basketball, a lot of KU football. The Kansas women are off to a hot start as well in this 2024-25 season. And we are excited to be joined coming up later on in the show by KU Associate Head Coach Morgan Paige to help break down all things happening with KU women's basketball. They were very busy also in the transfer portal last season, and they've had some impact transfers on the team this year. And also they've got a couple of big recruits that they've got committed that we're excited to talk with Morgan about coming up later on in the show. So for the Kansas women's team, if you haven't been paying attention, they are 11-1 in 10-1, excuse me, in non-conference play. They actually start conference play a little bit earlier than the men on Saturday, the 21st. So coming up in just a few days, if you're or coming up tomorrow, if you're listening on Friday, against Baylor at home. So they start conference play quite a bit earlier than the men do, but it's been a pretty strong non-conference stretch for the KU women, of course, led by S'Mya Nichols. They went to the Paradise Jam and won there, including beating a tough Auburn team in a tight game. And they just most recently got a big win over Penn State in Allen Fieldhouse this past weekend. Their one lone loss of the season was against Iowa, 71-58. And really, Kevin, this everything on this team, and I'm excited to talk with Morgan Paige about this, but everything on this team really starts and ends with S'Mya Nichols, right? A local homegrown talent who came to Kansas, stayed local, and was phenomenal as a freshman, and really looks like she could be, in the conversation for being an All-American this season for Kansas, averaging over 21 points per game. She's been outstanding, to say the least.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson once referred to himself, as the straw that stirs the drink. I think S'Mya Nichols, probably is the straw and the cup that the drink goes into. And that's not a knock on her teammates. It's just that's what she brings. She can do so many different things. You need a big bucket, S'Mya's got you. You need her to set somebody up, she's got you there. And I think this is a team that feels pretty well constructed around her too. And I'm sure we'll talk to Morgan Paige about that here in a little bit, but it's a group that I think, Nick, has a chance to keep getting better as the season goes on and as those pieces continue to get more acclimated. Elle Evans kind of had a rough start to the year shooting. She's kind of refound her shot a little bit. I think over their last 7 games or so, she's making about 43% of her threes. Getting Brittany Harshaw back, she missed about a month or so of playing time in there. She's somebody that can help them on the glass. And this is a team that isn't as traditionally big or doesn't have sort of the traditional rim protection, rebounding that maybe you would see in some other spots. And so having somebody like Harshaw that can play the spot that she does and crash the glass the way that she does, in addition to the other things that she does, I really think, as great a start as this is, Nick, this is a team that we could look at in February and say they've gotten a lot better from where they were at in December.
Yeah, look, head coach Brandon Snyder talked about it quite a bit actually before the season and during the season as well, which is when you have a player like Tiana Jackson with that type of size, you're going to play through her, right? You're going to play through that type of player with the type of size that she had. And obviously with her no longer in the program, this Kansas team really kind of had to mold themselves into a different style of team, right? And Brandon Schneider talked about, hey, we're going to have to maybe live on the perimeter a little bit more and make some shots from the outside. And they went out and found some players, to your point, that can do that, right? And I think that's something that's really, you should tip your hat to this staff. Jeez, try saying that 5 times fast. I just did, and it was terrible. But tip your hat to the staff about going out and recognizing, hey, look, the style of basketball that we have played over the past couple of years with some of the experience size that we had with Tiana Jackson, that's just not going to be feasible with the roster that we have now that we're going to try to construct, right? And realizing, hey, look, we've got a player in S'Mya Nichols who truly is, a once in a generation type of player, I think. At KU, let's play to her strengths, right? Let's play to what she can do well. And they've certainly done that. They've certainly gone out and gotten players that can do that as well. And I think that's allowed her to shine so far this season, which has been really, really impressive to watch. But yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of credit needs to be given to Brandon Snyder and the staff. And like I said, we'll probably ask Morgan Paige about this, but just to be able to recognize that there needed to be a shift in style of play and having the ability to do that, right? I mean, you look around in any sport, coaches that can't adapt are the ones that tend to struggle, right? I mean, that's what we talk about so much with Bill Self. And I think Brandon Schneider has shown so far this season that he's adapting, right, to a different style than what this team has been able to play previously with the type of player like Tiana Jackson, which has been really impressive to see. And yeah, to your point, they've gotten some really good shooters. I mean, Elle Evans, you mentioned, who struggled early, but she's still, as of right now, is shooting 37%. S'Mya Nichols has been great from three. Sanaya Copeland has been great from three as well. So, and then on top of all that, talk about the fact that this team has been without Yvette Mayberry, or she's been hampered by an injury as well. Only played in 6 games so far this season as well. So when you add her back into the mix, that should really boost them also.
Yeah, I would agree. And you look at, when you look at a record like this, sometimes you wonder, like, okay, are they playing the toughest competition? Nick, the only game they've lost is to an Iowa team that's currently ranked 22nd in the AP poll. And so they, I think when they won down in the Virgin Islands, 2 of their 3 teams that they beat down there, you mentioned the Auburn game in the championship. I think they beat Pittsburgh to start that thing off. And so they've gotten some experience against some Power 4 programs and in some tough situations. And the other thing I like, Nick, is they've been in some tight games that have needed to be decided in the final minute or two, right? And you never know with any specific team, but particularly when you have a team that has so many new and moving pieces, and even the people who aren't new are stepping into newer roles, you're never sure exactly how those final few minutes of games are going to go. Who's going to take the big shots? I think we thought it would be S'Mya, but other than that, who's going to get your key stop for you? Who's going to grab the key rebound? How are you going to defend in certain situations? All of those are questions that need to be asked, and you don't really know if you have the answers until you face those tight game situations. And so far, Nick, they've had more answers than they have question marks coming out of close games, because they've done a great job in those situations. You mentioned the Auburn game. You talked about the Penn State game as well. That was a game that went down to the wire. Had to make all the plays down the stretch to win that one. And so I think that's been one of the more impressive elements as well.
Yeah, in the Penn State game, they were down actually late in the game and came back to win it at Allen Fieldhouse as well, which was also impressive. And yeah, look, last year this was a team that went out and played UConn and went out and played Virginia Tech, who had been Virginia Tech was in the Elite Eight, I think, in 2022. UConn obviously is a perennial top power, so I think they've shown that they're not afraid to play tough teams. And obviously, you look at the Big 12 conference in women's basketball, it's perennially been a really great conference to be in. And so Kansas needs to be prepared to play that level of talent also when they get into conference play as well. So yeah, been a really strong start for them. 10-1 to start the season, as we said. And you mentioned the transfers. Look, everyone focuses on the transfer portal in football and men's basketball, right? Well, it impacts all levels of college athletics, including on the women's side also. And I think for KU so far, it's been beneficial. And we're really excited to talk with Morgan Paige coming up here shortly, more about that, about their recruiting process, about how the season has gone for KU so far. That's coming up here in a little bit. Morgan Paige, the associate head coach for KU women's basketball, on the other side. Of course, we've got to tell you about our friends at Home Field Apparel. You can shop homefieldapparel.com and get 15% off your first order with promo code PAYHEAT24. You can find tons of apparel, over 130 other colleges, and they've even expanded into some other areas as well. If you're a NASCAR fan, they've got some NASCAR gear. I actually am a NASCAR fan, so I'll just say that I am. And hopefully that's a pretty proof to you two there. So that you can get anything you want over there. It's the holiday season, so you want to save money, use that promo code PAID24. And also you can get yourself the gift for the holidays, buy a gift for a family member, a friend, whatever, and so on and so forth. So homefieldapparel.com. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Morgan Paige will join us on the PAID podcast. Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your number one source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com. This is the PAID podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Nick Springer here with Kevin Flaherty, and we are very excited to be joined by associate head coach for the KU women's basketball team, Morgan Paige. Morgan, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Morgan, I want to kind of go back to last season, really, and you guys end up losing quite a bit of production off of last season's team, right, including on the starters. What was kind of your staff's mindset in going into the transfer portal, looking for players to sort of build the team going into 2024 and 2025?
Good question. I think obviously we were in a place where we had multiple fifth-year seniors that are written all over our record books and have really been a pivotal part of turning our program around and looking into the next season and even just high school recruiting and portal recruiting. What we really wanted to go do was build some more space. And when we say that, perimeter length, shooting, and just being able to put more people that are more interchangeable around somebody as dynamic as S'Mya Nichols at the point guard spot. So I think going into portal, being able to identify those types of fits within our personality in our program, but also the needs going forward and what we wanted that to look like on the basketball court. I think we were able to do that. And obviously we're finding some success early in having that type of versatility. And obviously 3-point shooting has been a positive for us this season so far. But that was a big thing. We wanted to get longer, get more athletic, get more interchangeable on the perimeter. And I think you will continue to see that as we recruit. And the names that you're seeing attached to our program, but also just being able to play more space, more, I say free flowing, but really have that ability to offensively be harder to match up against.
You mentioned S'Mya, Coach Snyder at the season starting press conference said basically the same thing. When you guys went into the portal, S'Mya was a consideration. We looked at how people are going to fit around her. I guess, how did that process go? And I mean, talk about S'Mya's talent as well and getting those pieces to work around her.
Well, one thing, and I know if anyone's talked to her or seen her interviews or been around her in a short period of time, you realize like the basketball part of her is just one piece, but she is a phenomenal human being. She's a great leader. People draw to her. She's very magnetic in terms of people want to play with her. She's a great teammate. Not just like being your best player. She really embodies that confidence in her teammates. And I think that in itself is a skill and a trait, and being able to empower her to be that leader, but also like in the recruiting space, like she's able to give firsthand accountability and experience to what she's already been able to do here, but what she wants people to be able to do with her here. And again, it's an intangible, like, not everybody has that. And she has that as a young player that's only going to continue to grow and develop. And that's not even talking about her basketball skill, right? Like she's taken huge jumps this year in terms of how she's getting to her spots and how she's getting people involved. And I think we found out probably mid-season last year, she was one of our primary guys in terms of making decisions with the ball. But we've really just let her go and be that person from jump this year. And I think it shows. Like you're seeing her ability to draw fouls, her ability to get players around her in situations where they can be successful. And that's just a testament to her work. She's always in the gym. She watches film. She's always in the offices. So again, like she's a different type of level of player that really wants to put this program on the map, and being able to bring more people along with her and people that want that same mentality has been a huge forward step in our program that we've honestly never been able to accomplish until now. So now we're at a place where this program can really reach new heights because people are bought into, well, we don't have to just be competitive. Let's go do something different. Let's go make that next step, whether that's a conference title, whether that's a Sweet 16. And they have that as we want to go do this, not just a pipe dream. So it's been huge.
When you have a player like S'Mya, I mean, just what is it like just even just coaching her? Obviously, you know how talented she is. What is it, trying to coach her and get her to achieve what you think she can achieve?
I think for her, and she has aspirations to play at the next level. So being able to know that in advance, when you walk into the gym, you're giving real basketball correction. You're never coaching effort. She's thinking about the game at the next level. So when you're giving instruction, when you're talking about things, it's really in-depth basketball conversation, not just hey, I need you to run your route or da-da-da. It's basketball related, or you have to do this because you're going to draw these fouls, or this is where they're going to play you. People are going to do this. Now we have to have this, and this in place. And her ability to recognize that, feed that like a sponge, has been awesome. But also she really is. She wants to play and continue to play at the highest level. She's one of the best guards in the country because of that mindset. I think those are separators. And you see that with the elite guards across NCAA. They play with something different. It's because they're thinking further than just the play that's right ahead of them. They're really involved in the game, the decision-making process, and their development of what's going to take me to the next level.
You guys have so many new pieces around S'Mya, even pieces that came back stepping into new roles around S'Mya. Even you're off to a 10-1 start, only losses to an Iowa team that's currently ranked. And you've won a lot of close games, which you don't usually see with teams that have a lot of new pieces that are still figuring things out. What do you attribute sort of your early success to so far this year?
Yeah, that's a great point. The close games, even you don't expect to be able to execute immediately with a younger team or a new team with a lot of pieces that are new to contribute. But it's been interesting. Again, the mindset of this team, when we go into preparation, they always feel, and I think we do a good job as staff, making them feel like they're in the game no matter what. If we're in a close situation, they have 100% confidence that we will have the opportunity to win the game, but be able to execute down the stretch. And they buy into that. They believe that. And I think every game they go in expecting to win, and we don't have to make them believe it. And honestly, we look and we laugh. If you take away our first quarter of stage fright in Sioux Falls, where that's a true road game. I know it's a neutral game, but there were two rows of KU people. That's it. It's oh my gosh, we've arrived. But playing in those types of environments early is going to help us later when we go to conference play. But just knowing that they're not scared of the moment, I think that's the biggest thing. The moment isn't too big for this group, regardless of where they played before, what type of role they were in before, whether they were on our team or on other teams. They've really just bought into, well, this is our group. This is what's going to happen. And this is what we need to do to be successful. And then whatever plays. They don't really get hung up on the individual accolades. You're going to see multiple people be giving us bright spots every night. And obviously the consistency of having a first team all-league guard at the front of it helps tremendously. But that confidence, that calm composure in the tight games really has a testament to their belief in each other.
Kind of going off of that, I mean, I'm just wondering, how important was that trip you guys took to the U.S. Virgin Islands, right? You win 3 games, 3 close games.
Huge.
How important was that?
Huge. Everybody, I mean, we talk about it, we're no one wants to play 3 games in 3 days. 3 games in 3 days is brutal, no matter what. And obviously we're not I would say we would love to say we're at full strength. We're not at full strength. So being able to put people from one game to another with zero prep, like walkthroughs in ballrooms, no practice, and changing a game plan and a defensive scheme from one game to the next to completely opposite sides of the spectrum. You play Northern Iowa, like Pitt, Northern Iowa, Auburn, like you're talking all across the board in style of play. So we learned a lot about our team and our ability to lock in and focus on just walkthroughs and sit down meetings with no practice, being able to change defenses up. Hey, we're going to work on these 3 things offensively in this game, and then it's going to be this game, and be able to go and do that successfully. I said we got back from the Virgin Islands. Obviously, we won the championship. Great. Like, we had some players say, hey, we've never been able to be a part of a winning, like, a trophy before. Like, that experience, like, you look back, like, we won the NIT and we talked about that. Like, being able to compete for a trophy is some things that a lot of people don't get to do. So that's a learned experience. Now that's experience that they can look back. Hey, when we go play the Big 12 tournament, that's 3 or 4 games in a short period of time. We've shown we already know how to do that. So let's log in and be like, this is not new to us. So again, really invaluable experience and opportunity. And obviously coming back with a trophy and 3 wins also is amazing. But again, just the confidence that you keep building on in doing those. And obviously, like, the style of play and the types of players we are playing in that tournament is going to help us in the Big 12. And I think, honestly, if we don't go play in the Virgin Islands, we don't beat Penn State. Like, I think it really has slowly evolved and developed in the positive way for our program, just the way it's been set up. Like, we are gaining great game minutes, late game execution in ways that we probably couldn't have forecasted before the season.
Last year, you guys got off to kind of a slow start in conference play and then pick things up from there. Is that something you discuss with the team at all? Is it something where you flush it and forget it, or how do you address that or not address that with the team heading into Baylor next?
I think we really don't. We touch base on last year's in terms of, like, how do we talk about it? Like, when we go into game prep, we like to talk about, like, the net and, like, how this team impacts XYZ in terms of what does it look like for KU women to be successful against this team. So in those aspects, we'll talk about last year and what it looks like from last year to this year. But in terms of, like, how we're playing, or like you said, like the slow start to season and having to really get hot. We got hot late and got on a streak. We don't really take that mindset with this group because, again, like, every team is different. Sure. And I think this team's motivations are different, which, again, plays into how they're playing. The way they prepare for a game or how they look at the opponents and what is the task ahead of them. We're young enough. We can't really get too far down the road. We got to stay one at a time instead of looking at it maybe and, like, hey, this is a 4-game stretch here. Like, we haven't shown that we can do that yet. So we're operating from day to day. Whereas with an older team, with a more experienced team in last year, we had to look at it more and, like, hey, this section, we're in a grind here where this is 6 teams where we got to tough it out and do XYZ. I don't think we're there yet with this group. So we're going to keep it 1 game at a time. And we've really talked about home court and valuing the home court games. Because, again, the conference has changed so much. You only play 3 teams twice. So even just like, hey, Baylor, we have 1 opportunity to play Baylor. So that's Saturday. Like, you're not going to see them again unless we play them in the tournament. So it's way easier to be more isolated because you're only seeing a lot of these teams one time.
I know you're really focused, obviously, on this season and heading into conference play, but for a moment, I want to talk about what you guys did and looking forward to 2026 with the recruiting class you guys brought in there. Tell us a little bit more about the players you got there with multiple 5-stars and kind of what that process was like and how you ended up securing that class.
Yeah. Obviously, we're very, very happy with how this fall's recruiting ended up and who we were able to sign in the early period. I think they're all kind of different. Obviously, with Jalea and Keely, both 5-stars, we've been recruiting them for a very long time. Since I've stepped on campus, we've been recruiting them. So it's been a 4-year journey, right? And for Keely and Jalea, it's probably been earlier than that. Like I know as long as I've been here, I've known their names. So I know it's been a stretch. Like they would have been 8th graders the first time we were in that process with them. So to me, with them, it's a little different because it was way more about the relationship and being like, hey, we are going to change. We're going to change this program. We're going to turn this around. We're going to be competitive enough for you to look at us and be like, we're a real option for you to come play for us. And we're going to take that step to make sure we get there. And now we got to say what we say we're going to do and do it. And we were obviously able to. And I think they really have bought into where we're going, the trajectory of our program, but also what it could really look like. And actually, it's tangible now. It might not have been as tangible when they were sophomores in high school and we're still getting over the hump and we're playing in our first NCAA tournament for the first time in XYZ. So it's been really fun with them. And then obviously with Liddy and Tati, it was more of, this is how we're going to start playing. These are people that fit A, the culture, but B, what we're trying to do in the, I say new age, but really just what the new look of Kansas women's basketball looks like, and the more versatility and the perimeter shooting and the toughness and being able to change ends and do things at a higher level. They just fit perfectly into what we were trying to accomplish with this class, being complementary pieces around a team that you're watching that is now, you have one senior, 2 seniors that are like playing. Like you're looking, the team that you're watching that's 10-1, the core of them are going to be here, and we're going to be building this together. So again, like it's way easier to sign on to something exciting when you can see it and you can see it play out and you see the crowds growing and you see the success on multiple fronts that players are having within the program, off the court, on the court, in the Kansas, in the Lawrence community. It's been great to get to know them, but really just follow through on the things that we say we're going to do. And I think this 25 class is really just a testament to that. And we're really excited. Obviously, June's going to be fun when they all show up on campus because they're all like in the middle of their high school seasons now. And they're like, oh my gosh, we can't wait to come play. We can't wait to come play. Well, we can't wait either. We've got some months. But yeah, it's been a journey to get to this place where you are competitive on a national scale with recruits. And we really have locked in on, well, within a 6 to 7 hour radius, there's a lot of really, really good basketball players in the, like we say, the Big 12 corridor. But can we be competitive enough for people to really buy in and get to campus and be like, oh no, it's different at Kansas. Oh, like this is different. I like this. And giving the opportunity to play at the highest level, like every A4 Power 4 school is going to have XYZ, but what makes you different? And that just being able to, again, showcase that, show that it's been true time and time again has been a huge reason why we were able to sign that class, and hopefully more going forward as we continue to rise.
The versatility and interchangeability, is that your favorite part of this class, or is there something else that kind of popped with this group that you're like, this is what I love most about this class?
Well, Morgan would say that I like the fact that these 4 can guard. Like we can really guard. Like, and that's not to say that points are important, guys. We're in an age where everyone's got to be able to score, and they all can score. Okay, that's what you guys are going to write about. That's what everybody wants to see is like, what are they going to bring offensively? And I'm more like, hey, what are we going to be able to do defensively? There's some things that bringing those 4 in is going to allow us to do, whether it's switching, it's being more aggressive on the ball, whether it's maybe it's some full court pressure. Like there's a lot of things that this group is more athletic. They're, like you said, we can switch, and Jalea can guards. Like she can guard 1 through 5. Like there's a lot of things that we will be able to do that we might not necessarily, like, we have to scheme this year, but next year it's like, hey, maybe we'll throw these 6 to 7 people out in rotation and see what happens. Like, we're going to go for 4 minutes and just do something crazy. We'll be able to do that next year.
Yeah, to your point, I think Libby's scouting report basically sounds like kind of a glue guy type, like, hey, does a lot of things that impact winning, but she's averaging 24 points a game in high school.
Right. Yeah, she's not short of, but when you laugh, and it's funny because we see them in the high school setting, and it's like, yeah, they can put the ball in the basket, obviously, and then you see them, maybe it's on a shoe circuit in the, like, EYBL, and you see her and she's providing like 8 to 9 points, but it's like a gritty 8-9, and she's shooting 45% from 3, and then she's got a perimeter lockdown, like, defensive assignment that she's got to go do. And so, like, Libby as an example, it's perfect. Like, she might become a 3-and-D guy at the college level, or she grows into something even bigger. Like, it's really cool to see, like, the skill set going in the door with this 4 is higher than we've ever had. And that is exciting because that means the base level of competition comes up in the gym no matter what. Because as a freshman, you never know what freshmen are going to do. It's just the reality of the situation. But if their start point is higher than start points that we've had in the past, you've already become, from 1 to 15, a better basketball team that can push you and get you better. And that's how great teams make deep runs. You got to have more people that can contribute and do things at a high level earlier. And that we're excited about that, especially because we think all 4 of them make us better walking on campus.
Well, Coach, we so much appreciate your time. Take some time to speak with us today. Obviously, we look forward to seeing what you guys can do in conference play and going forward. And certainly best of luck to you guys as well in conference play and the rest of the season.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. This was a treat.
Yep. For Kevin Flaherty and Morgan Paige, Associate Head Coach for Katy Women's Basketball, I'm Nick Springer. We'll talk to you again soon. See ya.